So we all know that game journalists are basically the scum of the earth, probably the stupidest people on our planet. And I mean, the job they do not do very well. I mean, like the ones who work for like magazines and official companies, of course, your average like YouTuber or whatever who does an actual review tends to do a pretty good job compared to them, but that's just market forces working their magic. Kirby Power Paintbrush, 90%. Sure. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, 58% from Nintendo's official magazine. I'll give them that. I did not like it as much as Coliseum, but let's just read what they got to say here. So, the idea that the game was overrepresented at E3, it's kind of whatever, beside the point. I like the idea that for them, if it had funny mini games like Stadium had, that it would have been a better game. You can tell this was written by somebody who doesn't get Pokemon, but then again, getting somebody who was old enough and mature enough to write an article for a paper or a magazine in 2005, you're not going to get someone who gets Pokemon. They're not going to give it a favorable rating because they're not going to get it. So their issue is that XD is too similar to Coliseum. Oh, my brother, have you played a Pokemon game? They follow off very similar formulas. Not to mention that this is not necessarily a mark against the game at all. It maybe for you personally, you had your fill of Coliseum and you don't want to play XD. Well, as a game journalist, you should try to be a bit more neutral, objective here, and realize that maybe not everybody had their fill of Coliseum. Maybe people like Pokemon games and they want to play another game like it. The same look, feel, and music has been picked up and used with a new storyline and fresh characters. So, of course, we know that the music thing has a lot of similarities, but as somebody who's a musician myself, and thanks to XD and Coliseum, actually have some of the best. They probably actually have the best soundtracks of all Pokemon games. There is a lot of new music, and it's very, very good. A lot better probably than Kirby, whatever game they gave a 90% to on just the last page. It's just so lazy. What are we meant to do? So they would rather they've spent their dev time creating an entire new game from the ground up rather than reusing assets so that more dev time could go into other things. Or, I mean, in theory, yes, if you save so much time from reusing assets, you could sell the game for less, but this is Nintendo, so every Nintendo game is going to be a full-price game at all times. So maybe this is a complaint you could lobby at a Nintendo game, but it's painful, and even the most hardened Pokemaniac is going to see right through it. Well, I can't think of a single person who doesn't like XD as much as Coliseum because it's the same thing as Coliseum for the most part. What I see people liking about Coliseum more, and myself included, is that Coliseum's unique environments are a lot cooler. And, for some people, they just rather play as the Coliseum protag rather than the XD protag. And sure, I'll give them that. You get a dinky little bike rather than a cool motorcycle thing. Maybe you don't like the level progression or Pokemon pool, but I think they're both pretty unique and interesting. But what are they saying here? That because it uses the Pokemon formula, which if it didn't, would essentially make it a side game, and Pokemon side games are pretty hit or miss, more miss than hit. So I'm not sure that's something you really want to gamble on, let alone implying that this game would need an entirely new dev cycle to be created. I mean, they're not really looking at what this is. They're looking at what they want this to be rather than what it is. What it is that they took assets they had and made a new game out of it, kind of like Majora's Mask. I mean, I'm sure they gave Majora's Mask like a 50% too, even though it's better than Ocarina, and like saved on dev time by allowing them to, well, I mean, they spent a very short amount of time making the game. But of course, if you wanted to, as a studio, you could just reuse assets and like spend all that time that you would have spent creating those assets, making a better game. It could have happened. If anything, you should assume that from reused assets, it meant more time went into developing the game. But these guys are just saying, like, well, this isn't what we wanted, and it's too similar to Coliseum, therefore these are marks against it. Not thinking for a second that perhaps some people want more Coliseum. They want more of that. I mean, I certainly love the fact that XD is just more Coliseum, because Coliseum is the best Pokemon game. And the fact that you expected this to be something different, and instead of taking your expectations and forming them into reality, you were upset that what you wanted isn't what the world is. That's not only an immature way of evaluating things, but it's certainly not what a reviewer should be doing. I mean, keep in mind, this is the same magazine that said that Pokemon Emerald was an instant gem on the GBA, despite the fact that Emerald is more so the same game as Ruby Sapphire than XD is of Coliseum. So I don't know. I think that's another problem of perhaps it was different reviewers, and then, well, when you have multiple reviewers aggregated to one place, can you really trust the voice you're getting? Do you really know who you're hearing from, et cetera, et cetera? Gotta love cutscenes being spelt with a hyphen. This is the European version. Maybe cutscenes is spelt with a hyphen in Europe. I doubt it, though. I'm just thinking that, again, the people who would be in the position to write about games in the mid-2000s are not the people who would really understand games in the mid-2000s, which is kind of a sad reality of where things were. I mean, yeah, he's got something to say about the moped. Like, sure, that's a personal thing. It actually has nothing to do with the game, of course, but I mean, even I am just going to be like, yeah, it is cooler to have a badass motorcycle. I can understand that. So what's this? Yes, and Tim used Power Switch. Beat that, you gormless little fool. All the, like, jokes about the UK, and then they pull shit out like this, it just makes it, like, 100% justified. She's like Kazooie on Heat, babe. Babbling crazy crap at the speed of sound, getting under your feet and making a nuisance of herself. Well, that is some... Whoever writes this shit, man, like, you interact with these people yourself, and you're like, yeah, cool, I get it. You're not quite there in the head fully. Like, I understand not liking this, like a babbling, game-interrupting person that you bring along. Ironically, Kazooie does that less because Kazooie only talks in cutscenes, doesn't invoke cutscenes herself. But your response is to write that? My God, man. So the same complaint everybody who was over the age of 20 had about Pokemon from 1996 to 2015, probably, roughly mid-2010s, when people finally get over it's the same game over and over again. It's like, yeah, the formula itself is pretty okay. The same game problem is where they haven't learned from their previous mistakes in old games. You know, it'll take them 15 years to make TMs reusable. Yeah. It'll take them, what was it, 3 more years after that, so 18 years for you to be able to view your EVs in a game. Meanwhile, like Digimon, for example, is just like, oh, you want to edit your stats your way? Go ahead and fucking do it. Look at your stats. Look at how your stats are different from other Digimon. Pretty much since, like, Digimon World 1, you could edit your stats as you wish in that game. Pokemon decides not to even tell you how your stats are changed, or the fact that like Pokemon games will mog you down with walls and walls of text. Like, that's a real complaint of the same game. They have not learned from previous games that having a player sit there and mash A through cutscenes and always treating the player like a new player, not even giving them the option to say they know what they're doing. That's something you couldn't improve on. When you look at like how a game like Mario has gone from Mario 64 to Mario Sunshine is like a world's difference, and then from Sunshine to Odyssey is like another world's difference. It's like Pokemon's entire career has not even made the amount of difference in their gameplay from Red and Blue to Sword and Shield that Mario 64 to Mario Sunshine has made. So the problem there is that they're not innovating, they're not growing as a developer, they're not thinking about how to make the games better. There's nothing wrong with having the same game again. Do you play Sunshine? You go, well, I played 64. I'm not going to play Sunshine. It's just not fun. Well, if the game's fun, it's fun. And Pokemon can be fun, totally. So what you're saying is, I don't want to have this fun experience again. Well, truly what they're saying is, this is not for me, and this reflects in my review. Very poor review skills. I like Shoeless Joe Jackson. I wish that was a character. So I don't go. He spent an entire paragraph here telling you basically the plot of the first hour of the game. So I find this a lot in reviews. Reviews will focus on the first hour of the game, almost like they only played the first hour of the game. Weird. Skip out of the Adventure 2 and the added modes hark back to Stadium games with their different battling rules. I mean, it would be cool to have a full roster of rental Pokemon like Stadium. That's definitely something that that could have been added to XD or something, you know? Maybe not Pokemon Stadium-esque mini games, as this article said, but they almost touched on an actual criticism, which is giving some constructive feedback on what could have been added to make the game more full. But no, they instead, but I didn't really see anything. Like, I don't know what that means. Skip out on the Adventure 2. So they're saying they're just saying there is that mode. You can play a mode like that. We could bleed on about the fact that this isn't a free roaming adventure, but it wasn't before we set out on this tedious path. What the hell is a free roaming adventure then? Like, does it have to be GTA Sandbox style, make up your own rules? Or is Breath of the Wild not a roaming adventure because all the events you can get into are pre-scripted? Like, the game is this game is linear, but it's not linear like Mario Galaxy linear, where you can't even make your own adventure. You just have to walk forward and do stuff. Like, this game has an adventure where you have to go from place to place. You figure out how you want to solve each problem. I'd say that's definitely less linear than something like a game like Mario Galaxy, which I'm not a big fan of, by the way, where the level design forces you to play linearly. It's just one hallway of walk forward, do the thing. It set out all the routes to whether they need a quest, something you do about it. That's every RPG. I mean, still probably ever. Like, it'd be pretty neat to see an open world RPG using traditional RPG style, but when stories are told, they're told linearly. So that's kind of what RPGs did back then. It's weird that they would levy this as a criticism against Pokemon when you could say it about every single RPG in existence at the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even like a huge Pokemon fan. Like, I'm really not trying to defend Pokemon here. I'm just saying this is not a very well made article. So the funny part is, freedom will come when Pearl and Diamond arrive and we play happily with each other online. Or maybe when Revolution gives birth to a Pokemon breeding game or something. What? That'll be the day. We have to flick the remote control to make Groudon feel extra happy so that he moves in to make special cuddles with Ditto. So the second half of this paragraph is probably the funniest thing in the world. But let's just start with freedom will come when Pokemon Pearl and Diamond arrive. So those games are not linear. You play through Diamond or Pearl the exact same way you'd play through Coliseum in XD. You go from route to route. It's all pre-scripted out. I just don't get it, man. You contradict yourself right after, like one sentence after. But also you say, when we can all happily play with each other online. I actually just said it for online play, not trying to necessarily say that the ability to play online is what the series needed to fix these problems. That's not a proposed solution. That's completely a tangent on its own. Okay, I don't understand. Pokemon Revolution gives birth to a Pokemon breeding game or something. I don't understand what the fuck that's about, dude. That's your problem there. I'm not getting involved with that. And then, of course, Pokemon fans will realize that Groudon cannot mate with Ditto because both are genderless and Legendaries cannot breed. But who the fuck is writing about Pokemon sex in this official Nintendo magazine? If this wasn't published 17 years ago, I'd say fire this dude, not only for being an incompetent writer, but what the hell was the last half of that paragraph? So this caption to this image, I cannot decipher for you what the hell they were saying. I'm sorry. Loverina's not really scantily clad, but neither is the Cypher Pond girls. I don't understand, my dude. So it's actually took me this long to realize he's mocking the fact that they're holding Crane here without any force, like weapons or threats of violence. I mean, dude, do you know what franchise you're talking about? This isn't Metal Gear Solid. There's not going to be a torture scene when you mash X to not spill the beans. In Pokemon, everything that's you say you know since Pokemon Red and Blue how Pokemon battles work, but my dude, in this universe, everything is solved with Pokemon battles. Like, they beat him in a battle or whatever, like he's done for. So I really like this little thing over here. So Nintendo official magazine says graphics 7, a slight improvement on last time, but the world still looks bland. The 3D fight scenes are sweet, but only with lethal moves. The 3D fight scenes are sweet, but only with lethal moves. So probably not talking about guillotine and sheer cold. Is he talking about only when you knock somebody out? He's probably talking about only things like flamethrower. Like, this guy, he likes action movies and that's it. Like, if you're not blowing shit up, he doesn't think it's cool. But even then, I'm just strawmanning because I have no fucking clue, dude. I'm Iron Manning him. I'm adding to his argument because what the fuck are you talking about, my dude? The animations in this game are awesome. Aside from maybe Battle Rev, this is the best Pokemon's ever looked and ever will look. So it's kind of sad that it gets a 7. But I mean, I don't know. I'd give it an 8 or a 9. Like, it really is incredible, especially for the era. I mean, it's funny that it holds up outside the era because it's decently stylized and it doesn't try to go above and beyond what it was capable of. Sound gets a 4. The music would win gold at the Nausea Olympics, and cries of the Pokemon are worse than scraping of a fork across a plate. So I'm just going to deal with the second one first. The second claim that Pokemon, I mean, it's a sentence that starts with a capital A and, of course, but the cries of Pokemon are worse than scraping a fork across a plate. My dude, when I play Pokemon, the cries of them barely register in my brain because you send them out at the beginning of a battle. You don't fucking hear them that often. Like, you really want high definition, like Pikachu. Like, they just say their names, dude. That would be such a waste of space on the disc. The music would win gold at the Nausea Olympics. 4 out of 10. About the best soundtrack Pokemon as a series has ever had. Definitely some of the best music video games I've ever had. Like, for you, this guy, does he only give 10s to like actual, like for him, Tony Hawk Pro Skater gets a 10 because it's real music. Like, he needs actual like radio music to be in a game, otherwise it's not good. It's really sad that you can't appreciate the music of this game. It's so good. Gameplay is 6, so linear. I mean, you'll despair after the first couple hours. The battle's only challenge when mightier Pokemon appear. I'd actually give it about a 6 or a 7 myself. But yeah, the linearity, I want to despair at it. Most games are pretty linear. I don't know what you expected. The challenge, it's not too much, but I mean, if we're an adult playing Pokemon, you kind of find your own challenge. You pick fun Pokemon to play with. You're not trying to use meta ones necessarily in a playthrough of a story mode. Maybe you do like what I do. I like to catch everything in a Pokeball to make things a little bit harder, especially in this game where you're catching shadow Pokemon. Even then, this game get some of the best AI in any Pokemon game. They'll use actual tactics like Protect, Earthquake, Rain Dance, Light, or Thunder. This is again as good as it gets for Pokemon, and you're only giving it a 6. It's kind of sad, but I mean, that also says a little bit about Pokemon. I can at least agree with him here. Value 5. It's tedious returning to old haunts, and the snagging isn't innovative anymore. Load up your Emerald Squad if you want, though. So it's funny that he mentions Emerald because Emerald is the same thing as Ruby Sapphire, yet XD being the same thing as Coliseum gets it a 5 out of 10 on value because snagging isn't innovative anymore. I mean, catching Pokemon isn't innovative anymore then because it was only innovative in Red and Blue. Did you just like need something completely new every single game? Like, you can't appreciate a game that has something that an old game has? I mean, value on this game, you've heard my opinion on all these. So value on this game, I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8 because the Battle Now feature is kind of lame. How it just gives you random guys. Story mode is great, fantastic, best single player experience you can get in Pokemon. The fact you can't really build up a team or anything with like a huge pool of Pokemon kind of sucks, so it takes away a little bit. And it's not portable, which kind of takes away from what a lot of Pokemon is. So I ultimately give it like a 7 probably, maybe a 6 if you really were hoping for a mainly Pokemon game, but it's not quite what this is. So the positive is if you bypass Coliseum, you won't go wrong here. You won't go wrong here. So for him, it's entirely because he played Coliseum that XD is bad. And that's just such a bizarre perspective. You can link up any GBA Pokemon game to trade and do battle. Cool. I wouldn't really call that a reason to enjoy playing this game, though. That's like a feature on the game. Same places and same ideas. You'll be bored within hours. I mean, that's two different claims. First one is true for the most part. They're a bit different. There's some new areas, some different areas some areas that aren't even included. You'll be bored within hours. It's very subjective. The dullest Pokemon game ever. Only monster battles liven it up. So in other Pokemon games, this guy likes non-monster battle things like walking through a route. Contests? What else is in a Pokemon game, my friend? Exploring the areas of the map, you could say, but Array is way more detailed than anything that the Pokemon games on Game Boy had at the time, mostly because it's on a home console. So I'm strongmanning his argument, but what? Pokemon games are only battling. Pointless conversations with people. We know how to battle, so yeah, we can disregard the second half because obviously that's referring to the tutorial stuff at the beginning, which, yes, Pokemon could include I've played this game before options, so you don't have to go through it. The pointless conversations with people. This is an RPG. That's kind of what you do. We've done snagging before. Think of something new. Yeah, like catching the Pokemon in the wild or something. I mean, what the fuck more new could you do? Like, you can't just come up with a new mechanic every single game. Like, this guy is like, well, I like Mario Sunshine because it has a jetpack. If it didn't have the jetpack, I'd hate it. Mario Odyssey, would this guy have actually given Mario Odyssey like a 5 out of 10? Because it's just like Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, but kind of streamlined in mechanics so that it can have better level design. I don't know. Tim Street. Tim Street. If you're still around, you should feel ashamed. Maybe make a new review. Only way you could cleanse your name. So yeah, 58% on Pokemon XD. Game reviewers, my friends. Oh yeah, there's this little box up here. 3Deoxys. He's upset that your Eevee doesn't start out as a powerhouse because, it'd be fun if the game started out by giving you the most powerful thing immediately and you didn't have to earn or unlock it, basically go anywhere. I mean, why even play the game? Just give me a beat game that I don't have to even play. So I mean, he likes that. He likes to go into. I mean, at least I did. Okay, at least when you're going into Pokemon like Battle Now or whatever, and you're using these pre-built Pokemon, I get that. There's a different appeal to just playing battles than there is to playing a game. But when you buy a Pokemon game, you shouldn't expect it to be just battles. A Pokemon game is a game of playing the Pokemon story. It's not just the battles. Deoxys, yum. That's just a juxtaposition that stood out to me. But I mean, this guy is all about the legendaries. Like, oh my god, dude. Even at this point in history, in the Pokemon franchise, like fandom, not everybody was all about the legendaries. Like, people are getting a bit more mature if their taste in Pokemon and realizing, I kind of like this one. He's unique. I like the way that this Pokemon, like, aesthetically, like what it represents or like how it plays. This guy just is like, give me the big, powerful ones. I want the strong ones. Like, oh, come on, dude. On all fronts, this is just such a disappointing article. Like, whoever wrote this is just like has such a narrow perspective on things. Like, it's kind of, I imagine they'd enjoy a lot less things in life based on how they have these expectations for how things should be, and then when they're not met for them, that's just like a deal breaker. They can't adapt or appreciate any new experiences. It's pretty decent screenshots. I mean, yeah, if you're trying to show the game's graphics off for what it is, it's a very good job. Kind of gives you a variety of the kind of stuff that's going on and shows off some of the spectacles of it. Anyway, I just came across this and was going to share it to some friends on Discord and say, look how bad this article is. But I mean, it was so funny that I said, it was just so like terrible. I had to make a whole video out of it just to like, show the world how bad things are and how game journalism, my friend, just the institution of game journalism and how bad it is, how it always has been. It's just it's a gold mine for laughs. So yeah, sup for spub, folks. As you can see, I'm in the mood to post whatever. So God knows what's going to be in the future.